Okay, this is wild. The woman you see on your left is obviously Erika Kirk. The guy in the middle is Yair Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu's son. The guy on the right is Tyler Bauer, the guy that Candace Owens claimed was having sexual relations with young male interns at TPUSA. What the is going on here?
But just know that nothing is by mistake. Nothing. I will never forget the time I was in Israel with my husband, well, that was the second time, but the first time with my mother on a pilgrimage. And I was standing in the ticket line, and I remember looking behind me, and in the snake of the ticket line was a guy who looked very familiar. I had no idea who he was.
It took time, but now people are starting to connect the dots. Everything Candace Owens has been saying about Erika's past is suddenly getting a second look, and it's raising eyebrows everywhere. New reports are claiming that the reason no one can clearly trace Erika's family background isn't just random. It may have been kept that way on purpose. All the confusion, all the PR noise around her lately, some believe it's there to keep attention away from bigger questions about where she really comes from and how her story was built. Candace has made a lot of statements about Erika, and not everyone agrees with her approach. Some people, especially in the Turning Point USA community, feel like it crosses a line, especially considering Erika is going through a deeply personal loss. But even critics admit one thing stands out. Erika's way of handling grief has been very different from what many expected. While dealing with a difficult moment, there were also public moves tied to branding, visibility, and major attention around the situation, and that contrast has left people talking. There were also moments that added to the confusion. Questions came up about important family dates, personal milestones, and how certain details were handled publicly. And at the same time, in the middle of all this, Erika stepped into a major new role. She accepted a position on the Air Force Academy Board, joining a group responsible for advising leadership and reviewing key areas like morale, finances, and academics. It's a serious role with real influence, and that alone got people asking more questions.
Carl Kenneth Fronsby, Erika Kirk's grandfather. I did not expect to find the information I found about him. Can you believe it's likely he was friends with and working with the people who ran the Manhattan Project? What was the Manhattan Project, you might ask? It was the single most secretive project during World War II that controlled all of our explosives.
What made it even more noticeable is that Charlie Kirk had been appointed to that same board before and served in that position until his passing. Many say Charlie had a long track record that supported his appointment, which makes Erika's sudden rise feel even more surprising to some observers. The timing, the transition, and how quickly everything happened, it all added to the conversation building around her. Supporters argue there's nothing unusual here. They say it makes sense for Erika to continue work connected to Charlie's legacy and step into roles tied to his influence, but critics see it differently. They point out how quickly she moved into positions linked to his name, from leadership visibility to public representation, and they feel it all happened faster than expected, without a broader search for new figures. At the same time, Erika continues to be closely associated with Charlie's name, and that connection clearly adds to how she's perceived in public. The media often describes her as someone without a traditional political background, which adds another layer to the discussion. Her past in pageants and running a clothing business doesn't follow the usual path into high-level advisory roles, and that gap is exactly what keeps people asking questions. So now the biggest question being asked is simple but loud.
Alan Rothstein, Erika's uncle, may have been quite the sketchy guy. For Nanodynamics, it looks like he was sued in bankruptcy court, and from what I'm told, in bankruptcy terms, when a trustee sues a director or a founder like Alan Rothstein, it is believed typically that that person may have taken money out of the company improperly before it collapsed. And then remember the company Innumerable, which he served on the board of directors. That was apparently a penny stock that traded on the OTC markets before also going bankrupt.
How did she go from a private life into a position advising top-level leadership so quickly? That leap, that speed, and that visibility all at once is what continues to keep this story alive and under heavy discussion. People are now asking a very direct question: what exactly are Erika's qualifications? According to Candace Owens, her rapid rise isn't being driven by a long list of achievements, but by who she's connected to. The argument being pushed is that her link to Charlie Kirk and the public attention after his passing created a powerful platform that instantly put her in the spotlight. That idea alone has sparked intense debate, with some agreeing and others pushing back hard. Candace has also pointed to Erika's background, mentioning reported military ties through her parents, but says that's only a small part of a much bigger picture. When people started digging into older social media posts, they noticed a pattern that raised even more questions. There was one woman who kept appearing in Erika's photos and videos during her time in New York, and at first, it looked like a simple friendship. But later details suggested the connection might have been closer than people originally thought. In one now-removed post, Erika spoke about honoring the Sabbath, and that same woman publicly supported her, describing herself as a cousin and sharing details about their shared family traditions. She explained that while she personally identified as Christian, part of her family followed Jewish traditions, and that those experiences were something she respected deeply. At face value, it could have simply been two people who felt like family after living together. But once the post gained attention, it suddenly disappeared. Not long after, related social media activity was wiped, and that move only added more curiosity to the situation. More archived posts added to the conversation. In another example,
and then there's this company, Shazoom LLC, which, if you remember, is a business funding company. And based on my research, it seems like Shazoom LLC has almost zero footprint, no major client reviews, no press releases of funded deals, no industry presence. And for a quote-unquote business funding company to have no track record of funding businesses suggests it might be just a shell company, a vehicle used to move money around rather than conducting actual commerce.
Erika referred to a man named Alan Rothstein as her uncle and spoke highly of his character and resilience. Public records and online discussions have linked that name to various business activities over the years, which brought even more attention to the connection being discussed online. Some of those past cases describe disputes involving consulting roles and financial disagreements, painting a complicated picture that people continue to analyze from different angles. There are also mentions of business entities tied to that same name, including companies that appear to have limited public information or visibility. While having multiple companies or low-profile operations isn't unusual on its own, it's the lack of clear details that has people asking questions. Discussions around shell companies often come up in these conversations, and while they are legal in many situations, they can also be used in complex financial structures, which adds another layer to how people interpret everything. Beyond that, the conversation has expanded into broader historical references. Some online discussions have pointed to the Rothstein name appearing in different contexts across American history, including well-known figures like Arnold Rothstein. However, these references are often general and debated, and they don't directly confirm any specific claims about Erika herself. Still, the overlap in names and connections is enough to keep people talking and speculating. At this point, the situation feels like a mix of confirmed details, online discoveries, and ongoing questions that haven't been fully answered. Some people see patterns, others see coincidence, but one thing is clear: the more information surfaces, the more attention the story continues to attract. As the conversation kept growing,
it's rather strange then that Rothstein shares family ties to another family, another prominent Jewish family that has been the center of many theories for hundreds of years and has been involved in everything from currency manipulation to economic crashes and to assassinations and everything in between. And that family would be the Rothschilds. Indeed, I was rather surprised to see that the two families are related, and pretty directly, because all I had to do was scroll over to the side and boom, there it was.
Some claims online began linking Erika to the Rothstein name and then stretching even further into other well-known families. Supporters of those theories say that could explain how she moved through certain spaces so quickly, gaining attention and access without the usual slow climb. But it's important to note, these are still claims being debated, and none of it has been clearly confirmed. Still, the speed of her rise is what keeps people talking and questioning how everything came together so fast. Candace Owens has also argued that this could explain why Erika's public messaging seemed to shift around topics connected to Charlie Kirk, especially toward the end of his life. Observers pointed out that Charlie had started expressing different views in his final days, and they feel Erika's public stance didn't always line up with that. That contrast created even more discussion, with people trying to figure out what was genuine and what might have been shaped after the fact. Another area that raised eyebrows was Erika's past in the pageant and modeling world. After winning Miss Arizona, she became more active in that space, and some online discussions began connecting that timeline to broader industry networks. Around 2014, Erika posted about working as a casting recruiter, and not long after, her name became linked to Next Model Management. That connection alone sparked interest, especially since the modeling world is known for being highly competitive and difficult to break into. This is where the name Epstein starts appearing in conversations, mainly because of past reports about his connections within certain modeling circles. Discussions online suggest he had relationships with industry figures and agencies.
But we do then learn via Jeffrey Epstein's emails that the president of the Corcoran Group is actually Linda Rothschild, and Jeffrey Epstein is working directly for the Rothschilds. He himself is saying that Corcoran Real Estate Group is all over his emails, okay?
And that overlap has led some to question who knew who during that time. However, there is no confirmed public evidence placing Erika directly in any wrongdoing. And that distinction is important. The conversations are based on overlaps, timelines, and who was active in similar spaces, not proven claims. There were also mentions of real estate connections that caught attention. The Rothschild name has appeared in various historical business contexts, including real estate, discussions tied to Epstein-related reports. Around the same time, Erika began working with the Corcoran Group after getting her license in 2018. For some observers, that raised questions about how quickly she entered a high-level firm that often expects prior experience. Critics pointed out that there isn't much publicly available information about completed deals tied to her name during that period, which added another layer to the discussion. At the same time, others argue that entering a firm doesn't always require a long list of closed deals, especially if there are mentorships or internal placements involved. Still, the timing and the connections being discussed are what continue to fuel curiosity. In the end, this part of the story is built on overlapping timelines, industry connections, and a lot of unanswered questions. Some people see patterns, others see coincidence, but one thing is clear. The deeper people look, the more complicated the picture becomes. And that's exactly why the conversation isn't slowing down anytime soon. This is where the conversation takes another sharp turn. Online discussions have started focusing on leadership structures and who really holds influence behind major organizations. Some claims suggest that while public figures are listed in top roles, there may be other powerful individuals operating quietly in the background. And that idea has fueled even more speculation around Erika's connections. Candace Owens has pushed the theory.
Do then learn via Jeffrey Epstein's emails that the president of the Corcoran Group is actually Linda Rothschild, and Jeffrey Epstein is working directly for the Rothschilds. He himself is saying that Corcoran Real Estate Group is all over his emails, okay? It says it right there. Someone read a background on Linda Rothschild. It has all of her different names that she uses and also has her listed as the president of the Corcoran Group.
That Erika's time at the Corcoran Group wasn't just about building a real estate career. According to that perspective, her presence there may have served a different purpose entirely. However, it's important to highlight that these claims remain unproven and are strongly debated, with no confirmed evidence backing the more serious allegations being shared online. What really caught attention is how quickly Erika entered a high-profile firm right after getting her real estate license. Critics pointed out that companies like Corcoran are known for being competitive, often expecting agents to bring experience or strong networks with them. That's why some observers questioned how that transition happened so smoothly and why there's limited public information about deals connected to her during that time. At the same time, others argue there are normal explanations. Real estate firms can bring in new agents through mentorship programs, internal sponsorships, or strategic hires, especially if someone has connections or potential. So while the situation raised eyebrows, it doesn't automatically confirm any wrongdoing. Still, the lack of visible activity tied to her name is what keeps the discussion active. There are also broader claims circulating online about leadership roles and whether certain executives are simply the public face while others operate behind the scenes. These ideas often reference well-known names and past associations, including mentions connected to Epstein in historical reporting. But again, these connections are largely based on interpretation, not confirmed facts, and they continue to be debated from all sides. Because of that, many of the stronger accusations being shared, including suggestions about financial misconduct or hidden operations, remain unverified. No official findings have confirmed those claims, and they should be viewed carefully. What's clear, though, is that the mix of fast career moves, high-level access, and overlapping names has created a situation where people keep asking questions. At this point, the story isn't about one single detail. It's about the pattern people think they see. Some view it as coincidence, others see something more strategic.
What was Erika doing for the Corcoran Group? Who got her that job? Who recalls sitting with Erika for her real estate license? Do you do it online? I don't know. I'm ignorant about real estate license. I will say that. But I do know that there is a general understanding that if you want to move money, real estate is a very good way to do that.
But without clear proof, it stays in the realm of speculation. And that's exactly why this topic continues to generate so much attention and debate online. As the conversation keeps building, the focus is no longer just on isolated moments. It's about the bigger picture that people believe is forming. Observers aren't just looking at one connection or one timeline anymore. They're lining everything up side by side and asking if all of this really happened by chance or if there's something more structured behind it. That shift in perspective is what's keeping this story alive and gaining even more traction. Candace Owens continues to push the idea that Erika's rise follows a pattern that doesn't look organic. According to her, it's not just about who Erika knows, it's about how consistently she appears in positions of influence without the traditional path that usually comes with those roles. Critics are pointing at the timing, the access, and the visibility, saying it all came together too cleanly and too quickly to ignore. One of the biggest talking points right now is how Erika seemed to step directly into spaces connected to Charlie Kirk almost immediately. Leadership visibility, public appearances, and key opportunities all appeared to shift toward her in a very short window of time. Supporters say that's a natural continuation of a shared life and legacy, but others are questioning whether those transitions were planned or simply happened under intense public attention. At the same time, people are revisiting older details that didn't seem important before, but now feel more significant. Social media posts, past associations, and professional moves are all being re-examined with a different lens. When viewed individually, each piece might seem minor, but when placed together, some believe they start to form a pattern that's difficult to overlook. That's where the conversation becomes more intense, because it moves from isolated facts into interpretation. Another layer that keeps coming up is access. In many industries, especially politics, media, and high-level business, access is everything. It usually takes years to build credibility, connections, and trust before stepping into advisory roles or leadership positions. That's why Erika's timeline continues to stand out to critics. They argue that gaining that level of access so quickly raises questions about how those doors were opened and who might have helped open them. There's also the question of public image and how it's being managed. Erika's visibility hasn't just grown, it's been highly controlled and structured in a way that some people say feels intentional. From the way appearances are handled to how narratives are presented, everything seems carefully positioned. Supporters see that as smart branding during a difficult time, while critics interpret it as something more calculated. Then there's the ongoing discussion about overlapping networks. Names that have appeared in different industries, from media to business to modeling, are being brought back into the conversation. While none of these overlaps directly confirm any specific claims, they add to the perception that Erika has been connected to influential circles for longer than many initially believed. And that perception alone is enough to keep people digging deeper. Epstein's name also continues to come up in broader discussions, mainly because of previously reported connections within elite networks. However, it's important to keep the distinction clear. There is no confirmed evidence linking Erika to any wrongdoing in those contexts. The conversations are based on proximity, timelines, and who was active in similar environments, not proven actions. Still, in today's media climate, even indirect associations can become a major talking point. What makes this situation even more complicated is how divided opinions are. One side sees a woman stepping into new responsibilities after a major life change, continuing a legacy and navigating intense public scrutiny. The other side sees a series of moves that feel too precise, too well-timed, and too aligned to be purely coincidental. Both perspectives exist at the same time, and that tension is what keeps the debate going strong. As more people join the conversation, the tone has shifted from curiosity to deep analysis. It's no longer just about asking what happened, it's about trying to understand why it happened the way it did. Every new detail, every resurfaced post, and every connection adds another layer to the story, making it more complex and harder to define. At its core, this entire situation highlights how quickly narratives can evolve in the public eye. One moment, someone is relatively unknown, and the next, they're at the center of a global discussion filled with questions, theories, and constant scrutiny. Erika's story has become exactly that, a mix of confirmed facts, personal moments, and ongoing speculation that people are trying to piece together in real time. And right now, there's no clear conclusion. The questions are still there, the discussions are still active, and the attention isn't fading. Whether this all leads to clear answers or remains a collection of interpretations is something only time will reveal. But one thing is certain, people are watching closely, and every new development is being examined in a way that keeps this story front and center. The conversation doesn't slow down here. It actually gets even more intense. Online discussions keep bringing up the Rothstein and Rothschild names together, and for some people, that alone adds a layer of mystery that feels hard to ignore. But again, these are claims and interpretations being debated, not confirmed facts. And that distinction matters as the story keeps evolving. Candace Owens has made it clear that she believes Erika's connection to Charlie Kirk was never random. According to her perspective, everything traces back to the early days of Turning Point USA, which started in 2012 and quickly grew into a major presence across campuses. What began as a small initiative turned into a powerful organization with strong influence over young audiences, and Charlie became the face and voice behind it all. From that viewpoint, Erika's role in Charlie's life is being questioned in a much bigger way. Some believe her presence ensured continuity, stability, and alignment with certain ideas and messaging tied to the organization. Supporters strongly reject that theory, saying their relationship was personal and genuine, while critics continue to analyze the timing and the impact of her involvement. Another point that's been heavily discussed is how Charlie's public messaging appeared to evolve toward the end. Observers noted shifts in tone and focus, and that's where debates started heating up. Some see those changes as natural growth, while others believe it created tension behind the scenes. These interpretations vary widely, and there's no confirmed evidence supporting the more extreme claims being shared online. What is clear, though, is how quickly Erika stepped into a position of visibility after Charlie's passing. She began taking on roles, speaking publicly, and continuing work connected to his legacy. Supporters see that as strength during a difficult time, while critics question how fast that transition happened and whether it followed a pre-existing plan. That contrast in perception is what keeps fueling the conversation. The grieving widow narrative has also become a major talking point. Some people feel Erika's public presence doesn't match what they expected emotionally, while others argue that grief looks different for everyone and shouldn't be judged from the outside. That difference in interpretation has created a divide in how her actions are viewed, with opinions becoming stronger on both sides. As more people continue digging into her past, revisiting connections, and analyzing timelines, the story keeps expanding. Every resurfaced detail adds another layer, and every new theory brings more attention. But at the same time, many of the biggest claims remain unverified, and it's important to separate confirmed facts from speculation as the discussion grows. Right now, the situation feels like a puzzle that people are trying to solve in real time. Some believe there's more beneath the surface, others believe it's a mix of coincidence and public scrutiny, but no clear conclusion has been reached. And that's exactly why the conversation isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Do you think there's more to uncover about Erika's background and connections? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe for more updates, and share this with someone who's been following the story. Let's keep the conversation going, and I'll see you in the next one.